mid-season finale of Better Call Saul.
We need home court advantage.
I'm gonna figure out what the hell is happening.
Howard!
Did you know that if you Google for a drawing of chamomile, the first drawing that comes up is identical to the image on the side of Howard's tea? And did you know if you Google, does chamomile tea have caffeine, you'll find out the answer is no. Hey guys, Pete here. We've made it to the mid-season finale of Better Call Saul's final season, and today I'm going to preview episode 7. I'm going to break down the teaser trailer, have a look at the promo photos where again we get a sneak peek of a returning character who definitely didn't deserve what happened there, and all the other stuff that's out there in the world we can use to think about what might happen in this episode. If any of that sounds like spoilers to you, then this is your chance to leave, and with that out of the way, let's get into it. The title of episode 7 is Plan and Execution, which we know they've been putting together a plan over the course of the season. The execution part of that feels a little ominous if we think about double meanings. Last week, the "and" part was the word grind, which was related to Howard grinding the coffee, but then also Kim having an axe to grind with him at the same time. Does this mean that there will be a literal execution? I mean, we are in the Breaking Bad universe, so that's always a possibility. To risk a short sidetrack, there was this photo that Bob Odenkirk posted on Patrick Fabian's birthday that caused quite a stir when fans noticed what looks like blood in his hair. I didn't read too much into it at the time and largely ignored the theorizing that happened around it, but it has come to my attention that Howard is wearing this same pink shirt in episode 7. It might be nothing, but I thought I ought to bring it up in case you missed that connection. The official summary of 607 is short and sweet and reads, Jimmy and Kim deal with the last-minute snag in their plan. We already know the snag is the fact that the judge has a cast on his arm, and there are several shots in the trailer that make it look like they're doing a last-minute reshoot. Kim and Jimmy are wearing the same clothes they had on in the final moments of the last episode, which, of course, was on D-Day, and that makes for a nice race against the clock situation. We see Jimmy go to the university to pull the cameraman out of a class that it looks like he's teaching. Jimmy approaches who I assume is Lenny at work, the person they hired to pose as Casimiro taking the bribe. He tells him carpe diem, seize the day, don't live with regret. It looks like it's a bit of classic Saul talking him into leaving his post to get this photo shoot done. Which it does look like they do. There's a shot of a dark room, and we see the dropper bottle that they got off the vet coming into play. The dark room indicates that they're developing the photos, and you see that Jimmy's wearing gloves when he's applying the drops. This backs up the idea that the medication is topical, that it can be absorbed through the skin. They made a point of Jimmy saying his skin was dry where they applied it when he tested it out in the last episode. Could they be putting it on the actual photos so that when he picks him up, he'll get dosed? I really don't know enough about how topical concoctions you buy off a shady veterinarian work to say, but it's interesting that they're doing it all ahead of time. There doesn't appear to be an extra step where they have to have someone get close to him to use the drops. And in the opening shot, Jimmy is still wearing those gloves when he's running with the envelope. That could be further evidence of this, but I suppose it's also possible that he just might not have had enough time to take them off because somebody else is going to have to handle this envelope to deliver it to Howard. There's really no scenario where Jimmy passes this off to him. I already went over the plan in my episode 6 recap, so I won't go through the whole thing again, but the quick summary is that they need Howard to see the photos of what looks like Jimmy bribing the judge, give him the drop so he looks high, and have him make an accusation publicly about what he saw in the photos during the meeting so everyone thinks he's out of control when his claims of a bribe turn out to be false. Crazy cokehead Howard made everyone look bad. Let's settle the case and cut ties before he tanks it completely. The Sandpiper residents get their money, Jimmy gets his cut, and Kim gets to take down Howard before using the money to open a pro bono practice to help the less fortunate. I think all of this is fairly settled at this point. We talked about it on the live stream and we're all in agreement about the plan. I'm still not sure if the PI that Howard hired is in on the plan or if there's something else going on there. If they got to him, it would make things work a lot better. It would explain some of the stuff that felt borderline questionable in the last episode, like them not worrying about being seen when they had a drink right outside of HHM the night before D-Day. But they would almost have to show us how they orchestrated that, because it would be difficult for them to get him to hire the one particular private investigator they needed him to in that scenario. Either way, we see the two sides of the case sit down. Rich Schweikert and his team on the left, HHM and Davis and Maine on the right. What you don't see in the teaser is that everyone's favorite class representative, Irene Landry, will be in attendance at the meeting. She shows up in the promo photos, and I gotta say, I feel a little better about what's going down if it means she's going to get her money. After what Jimmy put her through, she at least deserves a happy ending. We see glimpses of the plan unfolding, and of course, something has to go wrong. There's a shot of Jimmy and Kim where I believe they're listening in on the call because you see the box for one of his burner phones on the table. He's making a reeling him in motion with his hands like he's holding a fishing pole, and you can see that this is making Kim smile, so at least for a while they think everything's working out. Probably what seems like the most critical scene in the teaser is also quick and inconclusive. You hear Howard say, "I'm going to figure out what the hell's happening." You see him turn his head, and I'd like to say the effects of the drug have kicked in, but you can't really tell. He looks at a painting of Chuck and it looks like he has a revelation. Is this just him feeling whacked out? Or is it him realizing he's about to fall into a trap? After that, you see him running up the stairs and Cliff coming after him, calling his name from the landing. I hope I'm not wrong in thinking he's running towards his office, since I couldn't find any evidence that it was actually on the top floor. And it's really hard to craft a scenario on 2 seconds of footage, but if I had to guess, he's just made the accusation and is now going to get the evidence, the photos, which won't be there anymore if this really is that good of a scam. That would sort of be the ideal outcome for Kim and Jimmy. Alternately, he could just be freaking out from the drug's effects, since they established that he drinks a non-caffeinated tea. Perhaps he looked like a kook, he started talking to Chuck's painting, and then ran out of the room because he didn't know what was happening. This would still validate Cliff's concerns, which is the goal of the plan, so the outcome would be similar. The problem with either of these is that Jimmy and Kim win, so there would almost have to be a fall that follows that. I don't imagine I'm alone in thinking that whatever goes wrong here will be the first step in the sequence of events that explain why Kim isn't around in Breaking Bad. Some unintended consequence has to come out of this meticulously planned scheme. Howard could figure out what they're doing and outmaneuver them, stop the plan from working, but there doesn't feel like there's a conclusion built into that. Nothing that we've seen so far about this back and forth with Howard leads us to believe that it's going to be the entire season. There's a lot of other stuff that needs to happen. Howard could have an adverse reaction. I don't really think he'll die. I'm not expecting that for the character, but he could. Or he could have a stroke or something along those lines. Maybe he has a fall. He's running around like a lunatic. Maybe he falls down. Throughout this season, the show has been making a point of trying to make these teasers tricky, making us think something will happen when it doesn't. And I think that, on top of everything else, really makes it impossible to guess, but that also makes it all the more fun. I guess the biggest takeaway I had from this is we're going to get that payoff for the last 3 episodes, which were mostly setup. There's also some Gus, Mike, and Lalo in the trailer. Gus seems to be doing some of the charity work we know he does from Breaking Bad. It looks like Mike takes him aside and plays him something on a tape recorder. This is a little out of place, but contextually, it almost has to be connected to him finding out what Lalo's up to. Mike tells him that they need home court advantage, and that seems to line up with them setting a trap for Lalo where they can control things with their security team. There's a shot of Lalo walking down a hallway with a sign on the wall, which is something I guess you might see in a truck stop in the US. It's for a shower that you can rent for $10 an hour. The most interesting thing is that it's not in Spanish or German, and seems to confirm that he's back in the States, which gets me really excited. There's another shot of him setting a timer and going to sleep in a car, which could be related to this trip, but it almost looks like it still has that blue German tint they used, and I can't think of a good reason we would need to see any more of his time there, so I'm hoping this is all in the US too. There's only one completely random shot of binoculars that look like the same ones Kim used in episode 1. There's also a promo photo of Hector on the phone, which you would guess might be Lalo telling him about his plan to get proof, but who knows? Someone's gonna call Hector on the phone. And that's pretty much it. Peter Gould did say this episode would end with a pretty major cliffhanger, so we have that to think about during the break. I think it's worth mentioning again that they didn't write the season in 2 parts. I'm expecting this to be a better place to break than at the end of episode 6, which if you think about it would have been pretty bad. But I'm trying not to have too crazy of an expectation that everything is going to get wrapped up or something like that going into the second half, which is going to be completely different. And I do think there's a high likelihood that we'll see the Walt and Jesse appearance in this episode. Not because of anything that was on IMDb or any of that, but it just seems like the perfect time to introduce them because you would get a lot of buzz out of it, and maybe some people that haven't been watching will decide to catch up before the second half of the season starts. If you're going to introduce them, say, in a teaser, something like a flash forward, before the break seems a lot better than after. Thomas Schnauz did write and direct this episode, which is a good sign. His last episode was 509 with that famous Kim and Lalo showdown, and he usually does important ones, and I think that's a good place to leave things. Let me know what you think will happen in the comments and how you think things will go wrong for Kim and Jimmy. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.